Okay, welcome back to Real Estate Reality, and I'm Lena Marie, and I want to introduce Linda James.
Linda James. This is my first time publicly saying Linda James on a podcast.
Really?
Outside of my husband saying that.
Well,
Yeah.
congratulations,
Thank you.
by the way. How exciting.
It's exciting, but talk about like the name change, having to go to Social Security, the DMV, and then everything else. It's a lot.
I bet.
It's a
I
lot.
bet.
But yeah, thank you though. Thanks
Well,
for
it's
having
part
me.
of it's part of the gig.
That's what I signed up for. Right?
Well,
It is.
good.
I am glad to be here.
Well, thank you so much.
Mhm.
I wanted you to talk about First Up, and I know this is probably mostly for the realtors out there, but also this benefits everybody.
Yeah.
So tell me about how the First App kind of came to fruition.
Yeah. So a little bit about me and who I am. I have been in the tech space for 25 years. Love technology. I accidentally fell into that. I hated school, and tech was fun, and sales was cool. Got money quick, and so I got into sales and then got into tech. And so a lot of my time was either at Apple. I was corporate Apple, or I was running the multiple listing service here in Fresno. And so, which really got me to understand the industry. I have never been licensed in my life, never sold a property in my life,
Really?
but I could tell you the ins and outs of how to prospect, how to list, how to go through a buyer process, all of it. But it's really because of my time spent at the MLS. And so that's how I got into the real estate space. And I was introduced to a company very similar to FyrstUp that was ran by your manager here at Century 21, if I could say that.
Sure.
Sandra Wilkinson. And it was a company called Listing Alert, which everyone kind of knew what Listing Alert was here in the Central Valley, here in California. It was a big deal. And she had this great idea that came from agents. And she said to me, Linda, agents do business on the road, right? And I said, absolutely. She's like, okay, but isn't it a disservice that we have a whiteboard in an office that has a whole bunch of upcoming listings that no one really gets to see unless you happen to be walking through an office?
Right.
And I said, true, yeah. She's like, well, how can we get that and digitize it and streamline it a little more? And she came up with the whole idea of Listing Alert. And so
But that was years ago.
that was
Yeah.
oh, I don't even know when. I want to say maybe 2018 is the initial idea.
Yeah.
I thought of it.
Because I remember I was doing a deal with her.
Oh, you were?
And she was like, "Oh, tell Linden Properties about, about the app." You know.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
And I actually do remember that because I've also reached out to them about it. And then she reached out to me. She was like, Linda, I am busy. I need to I had the idea. The idea was great. You confirmed it was great.
Right.
But I don't know how to run the company. I don't want to run it. I have to run my own business, which is real estate.
And you have children.
Yeah, and so, right? And so I was like, I said, okay, cool, let's figure this out. And so at the time, she had Listing Alert partner with a very large company, which is no longer around, called Bitwise Industries, which was here in Fresno, or headquartered in Fresno, but across the nation. And so I was asked to be the CEO of Listing Alert, which is a fancy name, just for more responsibility.
Fancy.
Yeah, for more responsibility. Okay, let's just be real. So I was the CEO of Listing Alert and underneath Bitwise Industries. So really an employee of Bitwise, but running this tech company. And it was great. It was phenomenal. We were able to build a company and scale it as much as possible within those 4 years of being there until it went under.
Yeah.
Wasn't that crazy how big of
That
an
was
impact?
crazy.
And
Yeah.
I don't know for those that are watching, I mean, if you're here in the Fresno area, you are familiar with what happened with Bitwise Industries, but it had a huge impact across the nation.
It affected a lot of people and a lot of employees.
I know.
And,
I mean, and quite honestly, the market, let's be real. When you provide jobs, it provides for more housing, more sale. Everything kind of goes up with that also. Like the value of properties go up. People are moving in, and then now all of a sudden you have 900 people instantly furloughed overnight.
Yeah.
And so it was awful. And so when that happened, I still had a company somewhat to run because my users across the nation don't care about Bitwise Industries.
Right.
They didn't even know Listing Alert was underneath Bitwise. All they knew is, hey, I paid for Listing Alert. Are
For
you
this
gonna support
service.
me?
Yeah.
And my hands were tied. I couldn't.
How many states was it in?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I could tell you we had about 8,000 agents across the nation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was still in a phase of growing. Still, it was a new company.
Mm-hmm.
And so I still had 8,000 agents to support. And the story of Bitwise going under was not impressive, like for them. Like they didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
They great, yeah. We paid Listing Alert. We didn't pay Bitwise. And so I had to think quick. So back to your initial question. I know it's a long answer, but my husband, Jared James, who is a very prominent face and voice.
Yeah, I listen to him every morning.
Me too. I'm just kidding. I know. I love you. Okay, but him and I, that night when that happened, I texted him. He lives in Connecticut, and I was here. And I said, babe, we have to figure something out. And bless his heart, he's like, we always say this, I'm going to bet on the jockey and the horse, meaning, Linda, I'm going to bet on you. We'll rebuild this. We'll scale it. We'll make it even bigger than it ever was. And I'm here to support you. And so although there was this huge thing going on with Bitwise, a lot of lawsuits, a lot of issues that I had.
So did they just
work
release
with.
it? I mean,
no. You would think it would be that easy.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Because they were done.
Take it.
Yeah.
No. And I was fighting with the board of directors, like, what could I do? What could I do? I couldn't do anything. And I remember I was just an employee, a CEO. I wasn't the founder. So I had no teeth in the game, honestly. And unfortunately also, Sandra and her other partners in the company didn't have it either, because when they partnered with Bitwise, they sold the majority of the company to Bitwise. So when Bitwise went under, Listing Alert went under. It was probably the worst slowing death I've ever seen. And it's because I had access to nothing. So all I had was my phone and my broker contacts. And I contacted every single broker client. And I said, hey, this is what's going on. And I let them know. And I couldn't provide support, but you could use the app until it literally dies. Meaning that, you're not paying payments on the app, the server.
Because they're paying a service.
It's literally a slow death.
They're paying for a service at this point.
And so I continued to support them as much as I could. I unfortunately couldn't financially give anything back to them, like refund them for anything, because of what happened with Bitwise. And so it was a slow death. But between Jared and I, we were able to replicate the base of Listing Alert. We had to rebuild it. So it wasn't as easy as like, oh, give me the code. Let me copy it. Let's go ahead and... No, it was literally a rebuild. And so... But you know what's so cool, and there's silver linings to everything, is I was very fortunate enough to have Sandra reach out to me to run her company, and I understood the ins and outs and what every pivot we had to do in running that operations for 4 years. So when I was on this pressure of rebuilding it, I was able to rebuild it in 4 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And it's because I knew what didn't work, what worked, and I knew everything about it. And so we hired developers, which was really cool is I wanted to make sure I hired the Bitwise developers that assisted me to really kind of give back also, because they were at a loss financially. So we hired them. We gave them the scope of work. They knew exactly what to do, and they built it from scratch. And it was FyrstUp. And so that's what we did. And now it's scaled to a little more. So like you see, it's pretty cool to have Sandra see this, like this little idea, but now we do open houses, and now we share broker compensation, and now, we do buyer matching, reverse prospecting, and we just have added.
Yeah, it's perfect for the buyer's compensation issue.
And it's wonderful. And the reason being, I'm glad you said that, we don't cooperate with MLSs. So we don't have to partner with MLSs to get data. We don't pull data from MLSs. We are not a part of a national association. We're a standalone product. I'm not even a realtor. I don't abide by anything. And so what's cool is that we allow agents to communicate buyer-agent compensation internally within their brokerage on properties that are coming to market, which is the only platform that allows
because the information's coming from the listing agent.
Correct. Yeah.
Just going in the pictures, everything.
Yeah, and it's all inter-brokerage communication and collaboration. That's what I always say. We're just trying to streamline and make more connections happen and more collaborations happen in-house as much as possible. And so We abide by rules, which is great,
Mhm.
and we allow agents to communicate compensation, which has been a huge hiccup right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you're on the agent side, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's difficult to figure out, hey, am I getting paid? How much am I getting paid? Like all of that. And so I have to say, when I ran the multiple listing service, at one point, the goal of the MLS was to what? Was to cooperate with other agents, and the way you cooperate is to offer compensation.
That's correct.
And that now to see that gone is like heartbreaking.
Yes.
And I'm not even in the industry. I don't sell.
Right.
And so I'm glad we're able to kind of include that.
Yeah, that's definitely a plus. Mm-hmm. So then brokerages, who purchases this app?
Yeah, so we're totally B2B, which means that we work with brokers directly. And I say this because, as we know, as a listing agent, your license it's hung underneath the broker.
Right.
Brokers ultimately own your listing. You represent them in the transaction of the listing.
That's correct.
And so in order for us to display brokers' listings, we have to partner with the broker. So FyrstUp is sold to brokers, and brokers allow agents to use the product within their network. Mm-hmm. And that's how it's a collaborative tool.
So for your upcoming, and then also you can put your listings in there.
Yeah, you could do upcoming listings and active listings.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
In there.
And how long do they stay in?
I think so up until the algorithm is different. Some brokers will say, okay, let's keep it live and active when it hits the market for 3 days, and then it falls off. Some will say let's keep it indefinite, and the agent has to go in there and update it when the property's in escrow. And the reason why it differs is because the tools that we have in there. So if I want my listing to be in there for 30 days, it's probably because I want to take advantage of the open house features, and I want to take advantage of buyer matching.
Sure.
Right? And so I want to have every opportunity as possible to get visibility to my listing. And so I'll do that. And vice versa. I want my buyers to have first rights to a lot of these properties.
Sure.
And so keeping the listing on the whiteboard in the app as much as possible really is, essential. Not only essential, but it's what your clients are wanting. Like
absolutely. It's just another service and giving an agent an edge. Mm-hmm. How many brokerages in Fresno use FyrstUp?
So I love creating scarcity. Let's keep it very limited, not give it to everybody, because I love competition, friendly competition. And so we keep it very, very lean in our markets. We don't allow every broker to have access to it. We only sell, just kind of like, you'll know this, like buying leads on Zillow. And
absolutely, right.
Not
everybody can get them.
Thank you. Yeah. Right? Oh, we only have so many in the 704 zip code area. Sorry, not available.
Oh, okay.
That's what we kind of do in the larger market.
So keeping it more exclusive.
Mm-hmm. Which gives brokers an opportunity to have that competitive edge, like you mentioned. And so right now we have 4.
Okay.
And they vary on size. We don't really care about the size. We care more about the brand itself, like how many partner brands, because every brand is different. One brand it could be a brick and mortar, and they want to use it to scale their business, and grow their market share by agent counts. So maybe they want to use it on recruiting.
Okay. Right.
And so we kind of help them on marketing aspects to help them scale in that way. Then we have others that are very large and they want to retain talent. So in order to retain talent, they need to provide something of leverage, of value to their agents. And so they do that. And so it's interesting because I'll sit down and listen to them, and it's not just selling a product. It's talking about their business plan.
Right.
And what services. Do we want to do? Exactly. And then we work around that. And then we decide, okay, great, we've capped out on this market. We are no longer offering it anymore. So.
And that goes state to state.
Yeah, and certain markets too. Yeah. It really depends also on the size. Like, Fresno is big but not big.
Right.
But
so you have it in LA and San Francisco.
Yeah, so we'll have. Yeah. So it's been growing. So FyrstUp has actually been now, as of August, has been here for 1 year.
Okay.
Talk about scale. Listing Alert we had about 8,000. I said 8,000 agents. Mm-hmm. FyrstUp, we have 32,000 agents in a year. A year, yeah. But let's also
because you already knew what you were doing. Really.
Oh, absolutely.
You just had to jumpstart.
And now it's like let's full throttle, right? And then on top of that, it's been a very rough year for agents in this industry.
Yes.
And so they needed something to like that had validation, that really supported their business. Brokers were looking for new tools to leverage. Like agents just needed something. And so with Jared's help, because he has the voice in the real estate space, him and I went in with a different the value prop when talking. But yeah, so we've definitely quadrupled in size, tripled in size.
That's
really
awesome.
Quickly. Yeah.
Now, what about, do you remember, was that last year when the multiple listing service, there was the hack?
Yeah.
So that would be great in that situation.
Oh my gosh.
Now I've always been a member of the CRMLS as well.
Yeah.
So so I was okay. I was able to get my listings in, but if you were not, it was like, how are you going to market your listings? It was like, oh.
Yeah. Okay. So what? Rapatoni went down for Rapatoni, which is your MLS, went down for 3 weeks.
Yeah. Seemed like
that
forever.
is how you. That is like your bread and butter.
Right. How are you going to market your properties?
Yeah. So I'm glad you actually mentioned that. So when that happened, I'm still very connected in the industry. And it's really because of when I was at the MLS chair, I made myself available. I was out, I was training. I love people. I love this. And so when that happened, I had so many agents, not brokers, but come to me. Linda, what could you do? I can't do anything. Like it went down. I got hacked. I really can't do anything. But what I realized, Jared and I sat down, and we talked about this. I said, hey, babe, I know this is not ideal, but could we offer FyrstUp to the association at no cost to Fresno? Because agents are needing to know what's going on. Like they need to know what listings are coming up. I mean, we could limit how many features they have access to.
Sure.
They just need a virtual whiteboard. That's all they need.
That's right.
Because I guess you guys were getting emails or something every day, or maybe once a week spreadsheet.
Lists.
I mean, like something.
Like in the olden days.
I know. I mean, I wouldn't know, but yeah.
Well, I wasn't doing real estate back then either.
No, but so I offered, and I offered, and I offered, and I offered, and the answer was, we don't need your help.
Really?
It was literally
even for free. Interesting.
It was very unfortunate, but I reached out to a certain individual, and it took a while for them to get back to me, and I still have the screenshot to prove that I tried.
Yeah.
They said, no, Linda, thank you, we have it under control. And that was actually within the first week. And it went on to week 2, week 3, and I was like, no, you don't really have it under control.
Yeah.
You don't. No. And then, but, you know, it's okay. I don't get any heartburn over that. There was no win in it for me, right? It was probably going to cause more, you know, hands-on deck and support, which I love.
It would have been more work for you,
it
really.
It would have, 100%. Yeah. But it's super unfortunate. But you know what's interesting when you say that? People always say, oh, you're like the MLS, but pre-MLS. Like everyone wants access to your data because you're pre-MLS, which is very much true. I don't ever want to compete with the MLS.
Right.
That's not my goal. And I think that's what their thought process was. No, you're competition, which I wasn't.
Right. And you're really not.
Yeah. And I even offered to I won't be the face. I could have someone else do it because I do understand I was a face of the MLS. So I'm like, okay, maybe I have my support team, not me. Like whatever I could do to make them.
What did the MLS think about that? I mean, was it a conflict of interest?
No. But the answer was no. We got it under control.
Right.
We don't need your help.
We don't need the app.
Yeah, and from my understanding, I don't have access to the MLS. And my understanding from a lot of agents and brokers, and board members at the time was they didn't have it under control.
Right.
They didn't know what to do.
No.
They didn't. And so
I mean, yeah, people were, I think I was already a member of the CRMLS, but I think that other MLSs were offering, you know, some help for free for a little bit. I don't know. I think this is definitely a good backup to when because things do happen. I mean, people are getting compromised like every day. I know there's a large, won't say who, but there's a large brokerage in Fresno that was compromised and was locked out of all their information, and you know,
it happens. Tech, I always say this, tech fails. I've been in tech for so long, and there's always a glitch. Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's always great to have a backup plan.
Always.
Right? And you can't be afraid of that backup plan taking over. And honestly, you really have to be selfless in that situation too. It's not about you.
Right. You're handling someone's...
You are a W-2 employee.
Right.
You're going to get paid no matter what, whether you go home at 5 or you stay overnight.
Right.
Or not. It's not about you. And that's the hardest thing. But if you can't get over that, then it's a deeper issue.
I just think for me, and I have put my listings into the app.
Yeah.
But I know it's hard to get, everyone on board. I know Sandra's really, been trying to promote it and push it. I think a lot of people just see, it's something else that we have to enter in, but it's really simple.
Oh, I
mean, it takes it's way less time putting it in the app.
Oh my gosh.
The
we have tested. What's really cool is when Sandra and I initially worked together at Listing Alert, and I was running her company, we tested this with agents. Like, it wasn't, I don't know what you do on a day-to-day. I have an idea. I don't know what you do, but my goal was to eliminate time spent on the app. In tech, it's kind of weird. Instagram, Facebook, they want you on the app as much as possible.
Sure.
Right? They want to build that algorithm. They want you. They actually monitor your human emotions by your swipes. So if you swipe slower, that means you're somewhat interested in that ad, but you're not really interested in it. And if you're swiping faster, that means you're really not interested in any of that. And then you'll notice, you'll be like, oh, that's so weird. I was just thinking or talking about this, and it popped up. They follow human behavior and patterns, right? And so when we built the app, we did just that. We studied behaviors. So if you were on my app and you're on the home screen and you're scrolling through and everything's fine, and then you go to your list, you go to add a listing, but you're stuck on that screen. So we're trying to figure out, well, is it confusing? Are you not understanding it? And then now you're going back and forth, toggling in between screens. So our goal was to study your patterns so well and get your actual average adoption per user under 60 seconds. So when you're entering a listing, it shouldn't take you more than a minute to really type in the address, put in everything in, and you're good.
Because a lot of it, do you think people use it mostly for, pre-market? Do you think that's probably the biggest usage?
You know what? That's an
interesting
question. That was the purpose of why it was built, right?
So all your colleagues could see what's coming on the market.
Literally, it's your office whiteboard digitized, right? So everyone could see that 123 Main Street's coming to market.
Right. And you get a first glance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's like the core, but we're seeing it now kind of pivot, and I think it's based on market. So we're getting a lot of buyers entered, but interest rates dropped. Buyers are ready now to jump on.
Right.
So we're getting a ton of buyers.
You mean like a want list?
Literally, it feels like it's so funny. I can look at the back end and be like, ooh, the market looks like the buyer side looks like it's gonna go up more so, and listing, inventory is a little low. And we saw today listings are actually up, right?
Right.
So you're seeing that as well. And so, but every buyer wants first advantage, and every client wants to peak and build momentum on their property before it goes live. I mean, it's a part of marketing.
That's a total benefit for your seller.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a great way to create leverage to sell yourself and win a listing.
But yeah, when you're going to a listing appointment, like, what do you have to offer?
Yeah.
Well, that's just another thing you have to offer.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot of competition out there. You've got to stand out.
What makes yourself different?
Are you going to stage? How are you going to market my property? Are you going to stand on your head? Or,
seriously, all of that.
You need to have a whole game plan.
I know.
You can't just walk in and go, well, I'm going to stick it in MLS and let's pray.
You know what's really cool, though, too, about this is putting it in FyrstUp does not even accumulate days on market.
That's right.
I mean, you could test to even see if it's ready for market. Is my property ready to even go? Let's see the engagement.
Absolutely.
Let me hear the feedback from my agent.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So you could throw it in there because every seller believes their house is worth more. Cool. Okay, Mr. Seller, you believe that? Let's put it into FyrstUp and see what the momentum and the engagement is on it. You don't get anything. Now you could go back to your seller and be like, hey, We got no matches. It's been on here for X amount of days. It's not on the market just yet, but we might want to drop it to see if we get any interest. Right. Then you drop it a couple grand, a few grand, 10 grand, whatever it is. And then now you have buyer matches happening. You have conversations happening. And now you know it's ready for market. Yeah. So when it hits the market, you're not adding those days on market.
That's right.
You know, and then
because everybody looks at that.
They do. And then, God forbid, it's past 30 days. Something's wrong with the property or the price. Right. You know, and so that's how I would sell it to a seller. It's like, let's use FyrstUp to make sure and gauge interest and see if it's even ready right now based on its price.
Right.
So it's kind of fun though, like to figure out ways to use it in your business.
So what's next? What is? I mean, do you have a lot of ideas that you're going to add to the service?
We do have some ideas that we're adding. I'm actually working with. This is super interesting, but a wholesaler is wanting to use FyrstUp in a completely different way.
A different market, or is it still real estate?
Real estate. He's in Kentucky, and he dominates that industry.
Oh, I love Kentucky.
It's beautiful.
I went to the Kentucky Derby this year.
Did?
Oh, it's fabulous. You have to
do. Gosh, I went with Berkshire Hathaway. Had a big convention out there a couple of years ago. So I got to go, and it's just beautiful.
Oh, it's so green.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So him and I are kind of road mapping and planning on how to pivot a little bit to where he could use it for wholesaling, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
And so. And he's saying it's kind of like the new niche. Like, Linda, you're going to see a lot more of this happening. I'm like, oh, maybe not. I don't know. But so working on that. But personally, Jared has several companies outside of the ones that we have together. But we're just really growing in coaching and his academy in that area. And we've just acquired another company, which is very exciting as a part of NAR Reach program. So it is an NAR company that we acquired and we now almost fully own. That is more B2C. So it's for agents versus more for brokers. And so very fun. Still in tech, still in real estate.
That's awesome. I know I really appreciate, I really didn't listen a lot to Jared James until I came here to be the Fine Home and Estates Director. And he really... I appreciate how real he is and the real information and the real things that are happening within our industry.
Yeah, very candid. He is.
He is very, and I appreciate that. I'm very, I'm like, let's,
and that's what agents are wanting. Just tell me what it is.
Right. Don't dance around.
Thank you.
Let's not dance around. So.
And so Jared does that, and he makes it very clear. He's the voice for you guys.
Yes.
He's not the voice for NAR. He's not a voice for a brand. He will support, the
he has a passion
industry. Yeah. And so it's kind of been fun to really help him scale and grow his visions and where he's going. But also it's wonderful to have him in these tech companies to really kind of guide me, like on the transactional side of stuff that I'm not too familiar with.
It was a match made in heaven.
It was. Oh, thank you. Baby, did you hear that? No, it was. So it's fun. And it's always fun to bring him home to Fresno. He actually, I'm not sure if you attended or not, or if you were here, but he was a speaker here in Fresno about 4 or 5 years ago. And when we had the big Evolve, event here in Fresno that probably brought 600 to 700 agents all together.
Oh, wow.
And that's the first time I heard about him. That was maybe 8 years ago.
So that's where you met him?
A few years. Oh, it was like 8 years ago. Yeah. Met him ever in person. An agent gave me his name and said, oh, he's a good speaker. You should reach out.
Yeah.
And so, that's how it all kind of started back then.
Oh, all right.
Really cool. Yeah.
Well, it was a match made in heaven.
It was. It's been fun. It's been a blast.
Well,
it's been a blast.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with me.
Yeah, anytime. We could talk about this or something else, too.
Oh, I'd love to.
I would love it, too.
Anytime. All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.